just trying to block me. Everything was going against the sanction bodies, going against everything that people sit and tolerate. I wasn't tolerating it, so it's kind of like the black sheep, like, he's the bad one, get him out of here, we don't need him.
Yeah. I think this is disgusting. I think this is musty at the highest level. Oh, Shakur Stevenson has been stripped.
Terence Crawford broke his silence, but there was no need for spectacle. He chose to speak through a message on Instagram, measured, deliberate, carrying a weight that reverberated quietly but insistently through the sport he had long dominated. His words, pointed and controlled, were directed at the World Boxing Council. There was no theater in them, only a steady refusal to ignore what he saw as injustice. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. This was not a retired fighter seeking attention. It was a man stepping into a conflict that had been building for months, defending his protege, Shakur Stevenson, against an institution whose authority had shaped the contours of their lives. The tension between fighters and sanctioning bodies is not new, yet what unfolded now moved beyond the familiar landscape of politics or bureaucracy. It was personal. It was about precedent, about fairness, and about the quiet, accumulating cost of power and loyalty. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. What the WBC did to Stevenson mirrored what they had done to Crawford months before. Observers began to see a pattern, a series of decisions that left questions hanging unanswered in the air. Was this truly a matter of rules, or was it a reflection of the fragile egos and hidden conflicts that can shadow even the most disciplined sport? To understand Crawford's intensity, one must return to January 31st, 2026. That night, Shakur Stevenson entered Madison Square Garden carrying everything he had worked for, every expectation, every doubt. Across the ring stood Teophimo Lopez, a champion defined by speed, power, and an unyielding certainty in his own abilities. Analysts had weighed the odds. The young fighter from Newark, technically gifted yet scrutinized for his lack of knockout power, was considered vulnerable. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Those doubts dissolved within moments. Stevenson moved with precision, intelligence, and quiet authority. Every step, every jab, every adjustment was a statement of skill and preparation. He outmaneuvered Lopez at every turn, asserting a command over the ring that left no room for dispute. When the final bell sounded, the outcome was undeniable. Stevenson had claimed both the ring and WBO junior welterweight titles, marking a milestone few achieve, a four-time world champion at 28, joining the ranks of the sport's elite. The significance was profound, not in accolades alone, but in what it revealed about discipline, adaptability, and the quiet persistence required to excel at the highest level. In the aftermath, Crawford stood with him in the ring, not in triumphal spectacle, but in shared recognition of effort and endurance. The crowd's approval was loud, yet the real story lay in the intimate acknowledgement of one fighter's journey intersecting with another's guidance. In that moment, the sport was witnessing more than victory. It was witnessing the human cost and the fragile promise of legacy. Stevenson had arrived at the top, but the horizon ahead was already complicated, shaped by forces beyond the ring. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The promise of that future, however, was fragile. Just days later, on February 4th, 2026, the World Boxing Council announced that Shakur Stevenson would be stripped of his lightweight title. The news arrived with a suddenness that left him, the fans, and the analysts alike grappling with its weight. He had just achieved one of the most defining victories of his career. Before the celebration could settle, the organization had removed from him a title he had earned through years of discipline and relentless effort. The explanation was simple on paper. WBC regulations prevent a champion from holding belts simultaneously across divisions, in which the organization does not have a claim. Since Stevenson had captured the WBO junior welterweight title, the council determined he could no longer retain the lightweight strap. Yet the reality of the situation carried a quiet tension. Fighters in comparable positions are often afforded time to make decisions, to navigate the shift between divisions, to consider their path. Stevenson was given none of that. The title was withdrawn within days of his triumph, leaving little space to reconcile the achievement with the sudden loss. He had made clear, through years of measured preparation and careful progression, that he remained a 135-pound fighter. The step into a higher division was situational, a test of circumstance rather than a permanent departure. And yet, before he could fully acknowledge what he had accomplished, the ground beneath him shifted. Stevenson responded with the same honesty and clarity that had carried him through the ring. On social media, he expressed the frustration of a fighter confronting what he perceived as inequity. He was being asked to pay substantial sanctioning fees for a contest in which the WBC had no formal involvement. The bout had been for titles entirely separate from their authority, yet he was being pressed for a six-figure sum. In his messages, he framed the decision with personal context, invoking his daughter. The priorities of a life lived in constant negotiation between professional obligation and human responsibility. More than procedural complaint, his words revealed a deeper sense of disquiet. This was not merely a matter of rules, but a perception of resentment, of being penalized for circumstances beyond the fight itself. He reminded observers that he had already met previous financial obligations, questioning the necessity of yet another demand. And in one statement, he connected this moment to a larger history, to tensions and unresolved conflicts that had touched others before him. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. His final message carried quiet defiance, a refusal to allow external validation to define his worth, an assertion that his achievements remained intact, regardless of the council's actions. Yet beneath the surface, there was more than confrontation. There was the weight of abrupt decisions, the erosion of celebration by institutional force, and the lingering question of how power, influence, and precedent intersect in a sport defined by both discipline and fragility. To understand why Stevenson would frame his situation in these terms, one must look back, just a few months earlier, to the controversies surrounding Terence Crawford, another champion whose pursuit of excellence had collided with the same structure, and whose experience had already cast a shadow over what should have been moments of triumph. Crawford moved up to super middleweight and faced Canelo Alvarez, widely regarded as one of the sport's most formidable champions. In the ring, he prevailed, claiming the undisputed title at 168 pounds. The victory was historic, not only for its immediate significance, but for what it revealed about a fighter's capacity to evolve, to adapt, to assert mastery across divisions. In that moment, Crawford's legacy was no longer a matter of debate. Yet, even as the boxing world absorbed the enormity of his achievement, the WBC intervened. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. On December 25, 2025, the council announced that Crawford would be stripped of his super middleweight title. The reason, they said, was a dispute over sanctioning fees, an amount they placed at $300,000, a figure Crawford had allegedly refused to pay. The response was immediate and uncompromising. In a video that circulated rapidly, Crawford spoke directly to the camera, his voice steady but charged with frustration. He questioned the demand, its fairness, and the principle behind it, making clear that compliance under those terms was not an option. The WBC, through its president Mauricio Suleman, explained the breakdown of the fees, a reduction from the standard 3% to a mere 0.6%, with a substantial portion intended for a charitable fund. On paper, the rationale appeared defensible. In practice, Crawford found it insufficient, both in principle and in gesture. Every other sanctioning body, the WBO, the IBF, the WBA, had accepted his proposed payments. Only the WBC remained unsatisfied, and Crawford's questions about equity and entitlement went unanswered. In the months that followed, the dispute reached beyond numbers or titles. Crawford's retirement, declared shortly thereafter, was as much a statement about agency as it was about health and longevity. He left the sport unbeaten across 5 divisions, the first fighter in the 4-belt era to become undisputed in 3 separate classes. Yet, even in departure, the weight of conflict lingered. His legacy, forged through decades of discipline and risk, had been challenged not by an opponent in the ring, but by the very institution that governed the sport. The situation took on a broader resonance when Shakur Stevenson faced a similar confrontation. Social media and fan discourse quickly drew parallels. 2 champions, close friends, and training partners stripped of their titles within months, each embroiled in disputes over sanctioning fees. Both had spoken out, both had challenged the system, and in the pattern that emerged, the boxing world saw not coincidence, but the contours of a larger, quieter struggle. The questions it raised about fairness, authority, and the unseen costs of legacy remained unsettled and unresolved. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Rumors and speculation began to circulate almost immediately. Observers asked the questions that lingered quietly in the background of the sport. Were the decisions against Shakur Stevenson purely procedural, or were they a reflection of something more deliberate? An assertion of authority aimed at those who had spoken openly? The timing, the similarities, the patterns, they could not be ignored. To some, it seemed coincidence. To others, it felt like a subtle, deliberate message. Within the boxing community, opinions diverged. Yet one reality became increasingly difficult to dispute. The WBC's credibility was under scrutiny. Every decision, every stripped title, added to a growing perception of inconsistency and inflexibility. Fans debated whether the organization's priorities were truly aligned with the sport, or whether reputation and control had begun to overshadow the athletes themselves. Terence Crawford watched quietly, retired, yet still deeply invested in the sport and the career of his protege. He allowed Stevenson to navigate the immediate storm. But silence has its limits. When the actions against Shakur mirrored what had been done to him months earlier, Crawford recognized a moment that required a response. His message on Instagram was precise, measured, and deliberate. It spoke both to the organization and to the young fighter navigating its pressures. There was no flourish, no exaggeration, only a pointed observation. The belts they demanded carried weight only because of tradition, not merit, and the titles that truly mattered, the ones earned through discipline, skill, and determination, cost nothing. Crawford amplified Stevenson's voice, retweeting his posts, ensuring that the wider world could witness both the achievement and the tension surrounding it. The subtext was clear. The friction was not merely about regulations. It was about history, about past refusals, and about the consequences of challenging an entrenched system. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Perhaps most telling was the silence from WBC President Mauricio Suleman, who had once spoken defensively in Crawford's own disputes. Now, confronted with both fighters, he offered no public response, no clarification, no defense, only absence. Meanwhile, a new force was quietly entering the arena. Dana White, a figure already dominant in combat sports, had launched Zufa Boxing, a promotional company built around a singular promise: no sanctioning fees. Its approach suggested a potential shift, a challenge to the traditional structures of boxing. In interviews, White framed it plainly: organizations that extract fees from fighters without adding meaningful value were a burden on the sport itself. The question he posed was stark. What is the purpose of these bodies if they do not serve those who risk everything within the ring? The stage was set. Between retired champions, rising stars, and new promoters, the sport was quietly confronting the tension between tradition, authority, and the human cost of competition. Dana White's critique of the WBC and other sanctioning bodies struck a chord with many observers. For years, fighters have seen a portion of their purses diverted to organizations whose value is often measured less by protection and oversight than by the fees they collect. The message was simple, but its implications were profound. the structures meant to safeguard athletes sometimes function as barriers to their autonomy. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Mauricio Suleman appeared on the Ariel Helwani's show to defend the WBC, seeking to counter White's claims. Yet, to many viewers, his explanations felt detached, almost defensive. The contrast between the two organizations was stark. Where Zufa Boxing operated without sanctioning fees, the WBC's traditional model remained rigid, demanding compliance even as it faced increasing scrutiny. The tension was not abstract. In September 2025, during the Crawford-Canelo fight, Suleman and his associates were reportedly denied credentials and barred from entering the ring, despite the WBC title being contested. For a leader of a major sanctioning body, this was a profound embarrassment, a moment that exposed the fragility of authority when confronted with a system that prioritized efficiency over hierarchy. Suleman's subsequent remarks reflected both frustration and defensiveness, revealing the weight of the perceived slight. He spoke of a world completely different from UFC, where, in his view, the fighters remained central. Yet the contradiction was clear. Champions who risked their health and careers were being penalized for resisting financial demands. Shakur Stevenson's path through these pressures was emblematic of a deeper tension within the sport. He had fulfilled every expectation of a professional athlete, facing top competition, defending his title, and challenging himself in a higher weight class. And yet, the immediate consequence of his success was the removal of his WBC lightweight title. The message, implicit and unavoidable, was unmistakable. Compliance could be enforced through deprivation, regardless of achievement or merit. Now, Crawford and Stevenson found themselves united, not only by training and mentorship, but by circumstance. The sport they dedicated their lives to had become a battleground of authority and control. Meanwhile, Dana White quietly cultivated an alternative framework, one in which the traditional financial structures of boxing were absent, promising a future that might finally prioritize fighters' autonomy. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The questions remain unresolved. Were the actions against Stevenson motivated by adherence to policy or by a desire to assert dominance over dissent? Were these rules enforced consistently or selectively against those who challenged the prevailing order? Evidence points toward the latter, and the implications ripple through the sport. In boxing, where the physical risks are absolute, the struggles behind the scenes over legacy, fairness, and influence carry their own weight. With Crawford retired and Stevenson stripped of his title, the WBC confronted two figures whose reputations, experience, and networks lend them influence far beyond the ring. As White builds his enterprise and the boxing world watches, the era of unquestioned authority may be nearing its end. The sport stands at a crossroads, where every decision, every policy, and every confrontation will shape the landscape for generations to come. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos.